Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Rule. More court action today in the criminal case of the president's former campaign chair, Paul Manafort. Lawyers are meeting this morning to figure out what jurors can be asked in Manafort's trial. This all coming a day after a judge agreed to delay his trial until next week. And now we know the names of 5 potential witnesses who have been granted immunity in that case. All of them have ties to financial institutions. NBC's Pete Williams joins me now. All right, Pete, you were in the courthouse yesterday. Lay us out what Manafort is dealing with now.
Well, right now the question is, what can the jurors be asked in the written questions, which is the sort of modern practice now in federal court. This saves time for the voir dire process of asking the jurors a bunch of questions, and then the lawyers decide which jurors they can leave out. This is what you won't be seeing. This is archived tape because Paul Manafort is no longer a free man. So this videotape of him walking into the courthouse is something that isn't going to happen anymore. He is now being held in the Alexandria jail, and he appeared yesterday in a green jail jumpsuit, although the judge said once the jurors start coming in, he should be wearing regular civilian clothes. So there are a number of issues yet to work out, Stephanie. One is the question of what jurors can be asked. The judge said yes, there he is in the jumpsuit. The judge said yesterday that jurors can't be asked, for example, who they vote for, but they may be asked what's their attitude about the IRS. Remember, he's got tax evasion charges here. Another issue that's yet to be worked out is how much the government can say about the folks he was working for in Ukraine when he was advising the the Russian-backed government of Ukraine and Viktor Yanukovych, the former president. The defense wants to limit that and practically rule it out. They say this is a financial fraud case and the people that were paying him aren't the issue. But the government says, no, that is the issue, how he made the money, why, when the money dried up, he changed his strategy on how to get more money out of loans. And in a filing last night, the defense said that they may try to ask witnesses, for example, why some people were getting immunity and Manafort wasn't, because this could go to some insight into the special counsel's motive for prosecuting the case against Manafort. So there are all these background issues that the judge has to decide how close they can come when they actually get ready for trial next Tuesday. And the reason, I'll just say briefly, the reason why the judge delayed the trial is because the defense lawyers said they'd gotten a mountain of new evidence, new material, produced largely from the former Manafort partner Rick Gates's computer and electronic devices. They're trying to go through more than 100,000 pages of documents.
Rick Gates, we have to remind the audience, is cooperating with the government.
He's pleaded guilty.
I want to bring in Midwin Charles, attorney for Midwin Charles and Associates, and one of my favorite guests. Midwin, talk about the significance of the judge naming 5 potential witnesses in Manafort's bank fraud and tax crime case.
Well, I think it's significant because what happens is we now know that there are 5 people who are intimately connected with Manafort's dealings and who can provide additional evidence and perhaps firsthand evidence. And that's one of the reasons why I think this is one of the most significant things that the judge has done to date on this case.
2 of them on that list, Connor O'Brien and Cindy Laporta, worked on Manafort's tax returns. What should we expect to get from their testimony if these are the people who know what he's reported to the U.S. government?
Well, we can expect to get those nitty-gritty details. And I think that, you know, we're talking about tax returns. We all want to know what's on Trump's tax returns. We are now possibly going to know what's going on with Manafort's tax returns. As you know, one of the charges, or one of the many charges, is tax evasion. And so whether or not the prosecutors can prove whether or not he evaded taxes, what is the extent of his evasion, how long has the evasion gone on, these 2 witnesses are going to be able to provide first-hand recollection or be intimate with the details of his taxes.
But right now, from what we know about these 5 people, there's no direct link or even indirect link to President Trump. This is all about Paul Manafort and potentially, you know, being a crooked business guy for decades.
And you're right. You're totally right. But what cannot be lost in this conversation is that Paul Manafort was Trump's campaign manager. You do not hire a campaign manager and trust someone who is going to help you get the #1 job in the world, really, if you do not trust that person. And what this does is to show that Does Trump lack judgment? Because if he was, chose someone like Manafort to run his campaign, and look at all this sort of shady back dealing that he's been doing, apparently for a long period of time, it says a lot about Donald Trump. Why would you choose this individual to be the person to run your campaign? The #1 job in the world, this is who you're going to choose to run that campaign. It shows a lack of judgment.
Well, all of this shows it is going to be a difficult road ahead for Paul Manafort. 5 new potential witnesses who've been granted immunity. That means they've flipped and they got the goods. It's going to be exciting. Midwin, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Coming up, Amazon raking in